Hey everybody, welcome to Game Off number 20. This week we got some interesting news that we'll be kicking it off with. We also got our Fireside Chat and a really good showcase this week featuring Luigi's Mansion 3. Oh god. And that was an accident. And Need for Speed Heat. I'm your co-host, Brent, aka Arcadia, along with
Andrew, aka Solitalker.
Alright, let's kick it off with some news. Big news this week. A new Half-Life game got announced called Salix, something.
Half-Life VR Stories Redux Birth by Sleep Alex, something like that.
F.
Yeah.
Half course.
But like that subscript F, the curly F, it's subscript and lower. So you can't even like copy and paste it into chat links. Half the title is just Unicode characters. Doesn't even work.
What? So you're the Half-Life expert and or fan on the podcast.
Favorite game series, really shaped my gaming history here.
Can you tell us a bit about Half-Life Alyx?
So Half-Life Alyx seems to be, from everything that I've seen, which is not much, but I've done a bit of research and dabbling. I watched that video that was going around. It seems to be a prequel to Half-Life 2, focusing on the story of Alex Vance, who is related to the plot of Half-Life. And you're going to be going through in a completely VR world with her doing stuff near or at the Combine with guns and other things you can pick up with your hands. You'll be interacting with stuff on shelves, through windows, mounted on walls and other surfaces, and you'll be generally furthering the cause of the good guys.
And why is this announcement relevant at all, Andy?
Well, Half-Life as a series has been dead for a really long time. And people have had this kind of meme going forward for a while that Half-Life 3 or Half-Life 2 Episode 3, because Half-Life 2 was supposed to be an episodic game that Valve just got bored of or ran out of money or lost the rights. Who knows? Who knows why they stopped, but they stopped. And people continued to believe that this series was important and relevant and exciting and definitely needed to be brought back. And Valve has a penchant for putting all of their eggs into weird hardware baskets. Whether it's the Steam controller, which is definitely still going strong and everyone loved.
Yeah, or for $5 now, I hear.
They actually, did you see that they oversold them? They sold more than they had and had to refund orders.
Oh, nice job.
And there were some reports, and I don't know, there were reports of, I'm not going to say that these are 100% true or this wasn't one isolated incident, of people who had pre-ordered with credit card getting their pre-order refunded in Steam wallet credits.
Oh, nice.
Which is at minimum shitty and possibly illegal depending on what country you live in.
Yeah, I hope that's not true. I really do.
And I saw one or two isolated reports of it, so it may have just been the person forgot they used Steam credits to pay for it. You know, they had them saved up in Steam and whatever. I'm not going to say that's what they've been doing, because it was not widespread. But, you know, they had that. They had the Steam Box, whatever the hell those things were called. Those sold really well. Everyone loved those. Steam Link. Everyone really loved that as well. So in their effort to put more money behind hardware that isn't quite ready for prime time yet, they're building this kind of flagship game that looks, I mean, if you've seen the video, it looks pretty cool. Looks like a pretty cool VR game. Yeah. And they've got one moment to release a new Half-Life game. Like, they can only do that once. And break this fast of Half-Life games that we've had. And they're doing it now with the hopes that the Valve Index, everything is going to go through, and that this is going to propel them and propel VR as a relevant home thing. And I think that's really dumb, because I don't think a lot of people have the space or money or interest to jump into VR at the price point of Valve Index, which is not cheap.
Yeah, that's all this news too comes like hot on the heels of Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, literally saying no one's asking for VR. It's not a concern. It's not what we're focusing our next gen consoles on. Meanwhile, Steam's putting all of their eggs in this basket and saying we are 100% making the killer app for VR or bust.
And I think that if it works, because their whole new Steam Source engine, the next version of the Source engine, is going to supposedly have, be as good for VR development as the Source engine was for mod development for Half-Life 2, and that clearly spawned a whole generation of mod developers and game developers who got their feet wet on it. They clearly they deserve all the acclaim and historical significance for that. Half-Life 2 was definitely significant for that.
Yeah, I mean, the argument can be made too that Valve or Steam is only relevant because of the Source engine. Otherwise, it would have only been like 4 games.
Right. So like there's clearly a strategy there, but I don't know, for my money, I feel like what they need is Wii Sports. They need that kind of game to sell VR, not
hyper introductory.
Right. It's something that my dad doesn't give a shit about Half-Life Alyx. He's not going to see that. But like Wii Sports, you see it and you immediately know what it is. You understand what's going on. You understand how all the interactions work, and you can imagine yourself playing it and having fun.
Yeah.
Like, you need to watch a 5-second GIF of Wii Tennis to 100% understand the conceit and operation of that game,
right,
and know that it would be fun to do. Half-Life Alyx, like the video they showed, it's hard to tell because they don't really show locomotion, so you don't know what kind of movement you're dealing with. You don't know what kind of, people still have issues with VR, giving them like motion sickness or migraines.
Yeah, so that happened to me really bad a couple weeks ago doing Trover.
So this is just, I just don't think it's there yet. And unlike the Wii, which cost what, $200 and something at the time, that Wii Sports was exploding.
When it first launched, I think it was $100 not long after, and that's sort of when it went nuts. Like, and that's the whole barrier to entry, because everyone has a TV, right? So
right.
You're buying $100 or how much ever it was, $200, and it comes with Wii Sports, and that's most of what anyone wanted anyway.
Yeah, there was some number, and I'm not going to even pretend to remember it. That was basically the number of Wii consoles that were purchased, and no additional games were ever purchased for them.
Yeah, people bought them. It was a staggering amount, like 75%.
That, or the only, and I think if it was even higher if you included the only other game was the one that came with a free Wii mode.
Yeah.
The Wii Play Pack or whatever it was.
Yeah, Wii Play Plus or whatever.
Yeah, so like that clearly was a system seller. And I don't see, even if it's an amazing game, even if it is everything that people who have been waiting for a new Half-Life game for the last X number of years want, which it won't be, it's impossible, it can't be that. But even if it is, even if it hits all those highs, it still means that anyone who has physical or sensory disabilities that prevent them from playing VR can't play it. Anyone who can't afford this headset can't play it.
Yeah, or a high-end gaming rig.
Yeah, or a high-end gaming rig can't. Like, and it also requires that you still give a shit about Half-Life. Because if you don't give a shit about Half-Life, it's just a really good VR game. And like, I don't know how many people under the age of 28, 27 give a shit about Half-Life. Really.
I mean, even I felt like I was too old for Half-Life, I always felt like I aged out of it, like I just missed it. So, I don't know who
you
this
didn't miss
really
much,
is
mate.
for. Yeah, oh,
oh.
Alright, I'll take your word for it.
But,
so
yeah, it's just, I don't see it as it's not Wii Sports, it's not even God of War or Spider-Man for the PS4. And that's what, or they needed to do whatever the VR equivalent of Halo was.
Right, and like, again, not to beat a dead horse, but even if this is the VR killer app, there's still so many barriers to entry. Like, most people I know don't even own computer monitors anymore. Like, how much would it cost you to get a gaming rig up and ready just to run the game, and then the VR headset?
Yeah,
along with all of the accessories, because this is a tablet and laptop generation. Like, when people find out that I have a desktop and they're not PC gamers, they're like, what? Those old Dells from the mid 2000s?
Yeah, no one I know owns that isn't buying it for gaming or like is in the business of 3D modeling or video editing owns desktops anymore.
Yeah, so your target audience isn't my grandmother who bought a Wii. It's serious gamers, serious PC gamers. So
No,
it can be the killer app and still be a colossal failure, but we'll see.
yeah, I don't know. I would
It,
love for VR to take off and turn into something that, in the same way that, like, I was very skeptical of the iPad, but clearly I was wrong to be skeptical of it. It did very well, and it created
Yeah.
an explosion in low-cost tablets, which is
Yep.
amazing. And I would love for Half-Life Alyx to do that for VR, and 5 years after the fact, I can feel silly and also feel really good about my cheap Asus-branded VR headset.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that would be great. I don't see it. But you've got
So-
interesting side news about that.
I was gonna say too before we move on, like the PlayStation VR is also like far and away the best-selling VR set, just because the barrier to entry is considerably lower. Do you think that they'll release it on that, or it's just gonna be a total attempt at a killer app for the Index?
I think that in keeping with their previous endeavors into this kind of hardware field, it'll be that. It'll be Half-Life Alyx, and that'll be it. And it'll either succeed and they will reap the benefits of that, or it'll fail and you'll never... Because, like, again, the Steam boxes, big presentation about how that was going to change the future of gaming. A couple of them
Yeah.
launch, and then nothing. Not from the... I saw people whose job it was to review new tech talking about them online. No one else. And Valve never mentioned him again. Same with the Steam controller. Like they just threw it out there, and then it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll check back in a couple of years. It's like posting on Reddit.
Yeah.
Just post something up there, and I'll check in a couple of weeks to see if anyone replied to it.
That's an upsetting analogy.
It's just there was no care and feeding to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're almost seeing that with the Stadia now, but anyway. Which, to make a minor correction to a previous episode, they upped the starting lineup to 22 games from 12. That happened like before we launched the episode, but after we recorded. But anyway,
Now, how many? Do you know offhand of how many of those 22 games actually run native 4K 60 frames per second?
as far as I know, none of them run 4K yet because the Pro subscription's not up and running.
And 60, because I mean they promised that they would be, all games would be native 4K 60 frames per second.
Yeah, I think that's still coming soon, but I'm not keeping up with it anymore. I immediately lost interest.
They had their launch; it didn't go well.
Yeah, there was no hype around it, so I lost complete interest too. It'll be interesting to study in 2 years when it's presumably dead. But
we can do a side by side of showcase for Stadia and the Ouya.
we should just do that on a YouTube video or something. Anyway, so along with all this Alyx news, recently Campo Santo was bought by Valve, the creators of Firewatch. They were working on a game called In the Valley of Gods. So it was presumed that Valve was trying to pad... They were talking about how they wanted to do what Nintendo does, make a lot of really good, like... I don't know what they were intending by it, but just like a lot of really good first-party games. So they bought up Campo Santo, and as a presumable effort to try and build up their first-party lineup. Obviously not to the same extent that like Sony or Microsoft are trying to do, but a little something goes a long way. So today, Polygon received word from the PR team at Campo Santo saying that almost their entire team has shifted to Half-Life Alyx or Dota Underworld, and the only other game that they were working on was In the Valley of the Gods. So this sort of tells us a couple things. Like, Valve only has 4 total games in development?
That sounds about right.
And they bought an indie darling team just so that they could have more support staff on games that they're already working on.
Gosh, now that sounds familiar. I could have sworn there was another company that had gotten far too large for its own good, and then just started devouring developers and then turning them into support staff for games no one cared about anymore.
Oh, are we gonna start talking about Ravensoft again?
God, I remember a game called Battlefield Hardline, but like,
Oh no!
I only remember it as like Whispers in the Wind. Like, did it ever come out? Did anyone ever play it? Was it just a rumor?
I played that game. Actually, had a really interesting story. Not to derail, it had like I got bored of it like 3 hours in, but it was one of the more unique experiences. It was sort of like playing first person Grand Theft Auto.
Now give me your hot takes on Fuse.
Oh, that's a game I own and I never opened.
Oh, of course you own it.
I mean, who wouldn't buy a game called Fuse knowing nothing about it and then never finding any reason to actually play it?
That guy
who wouldn't do that?
That guy with the helmet on the front looked pretty rad.
Yeah, I don't even think that was on the cover of mine. The Xbox one, I think it's just like orange. It was minimal effort. But yeah, so this, I don't know, this just sort of says a lot about Valve and how their culture isn't this like super cool agile culture that everyone thinks it is, and it's actually just it not much different from an Activision or an EA. Like, you're gonna buy up a team, don't know what to do with them. You see more value in them working on flagship games instead of their indie darlings because money. And we're just reliving the same story for the 20th time over the course of the last 10 years.
Yep, and I'm sure it won't be long before they're just forgotten, like Ravensoft, just another company that came and went. People wonder what happened. Oh yeah, I guess I remember them, and I remember they got bought by Valve. Whatever happened to those guys?
Oh yeah, they're just Valve Southwest or wherever they're located.
Yeah.
Now.
That's a real shame because Firewatch was an amazing game, and
yeah,
I wanted more.
It sold really good too. It sold 2.5 million copies. Like, it wasn't like this game couldn't make money for them. There's a reason Valve was interested in buying them, and I think they just immediately lost all concept of that.
Yeah, it sounds like, once again, they just kind of lost focus. Didn't put something, made a decision and then kind of forgot why they made it. And reestablish and just, okay, well, I don't know why we did that, but let's just move forward based on what feels good right now.
Mm-hmm. So, like, even in their press statement, they said that, like, their team, since they've worked on first-person adventure games, might have something to add to Alex. But at the same time, yeah, I guess I don't.
If you told me that, hey, did you know that the team behind Firewatch is now working on a first-person FPS in VR? Like, that would make me sad. Like, oh, that's a shame. I kind of was hoping for another first-person adventure game from them. But okay,
yeah, we almost had it. It's interesting because it reminds me of like Hello Games, not the purchase, but like the complete shift in what they were making. So they went from was it Joe Danger to No Man's Sky. So Joe Danger's just what do they call that genre? Like toggle bike, like balance bike.
Yeah, like I can't even think of it.
Yeah. So they went from that to making this like mega procedurally generated, fantasy or galactic sci-fi game where you can explore an infinite number of planets.
Once you've created the engine for Joe Danger, a lot of that tech is just easily portable into a massive online first-person space game.
I'm sure it's 99% the same code, right?
Yeah. So, you just turn up the fractal randomization and swap all bikes for spaceships, and you're done.
Yeah. So it's and that game's come a long way too. Obviously at a rocky launch, but so my point being that it's not a completely out of the realm of possibilities that they'll have a lot to add to that game, but also I think from a fan, it's just not what I was hoping for. Again, because Half-Life Alyx holds no appeal to me whatsoever.
Nah.
Because I really wanted to play this in the Valley of the Gods game. I just played Firewatch again for the second time. I don't play many games second times. I played that twice recently, and now I'm very sad.
Yeah, that's a disappointment, all right.
Yeah, so do right by on Valve, please. You also get the vibes from the press release that, like, because of the flat structure of the organization, a lot of members just sort of naturally ended up working on Alex because maybe there just wasn't stuff to do or whatever, and now it's just, and now they're gone, and now they're gone.
If you're at a company that isn't producing a lot of first party stuff, that may be the sexiest thing to get to work on. That may be the only attractive project on there.
Exactly. Because I'm sure that, like, everyone's days weren't completely filled in the Valley of the Gods. And I'd forgotten to check even how big Campo Santo is. But I mean, if it's enough to release a press release saying that almost everyone we employ is working on a different game now, it must be, pretty tangible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from all this Valve talk, we got a fireside chat. Hey, Andy.
Hey.
How you doing?
Yes, it's all right.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Well, I'll get you there.
Okay.
What's your feeling on snow?
On snow. It's funny.
Oh wait, there's two topics here. Yeah, but come on.
Yeah. Snow. We can do both. We can do one. I'm seeing one of the two that I was given, and I'm snow though. Snow. It's interesting you should ask because we just got like 4 to 6 inches of it.
Gross.
Yeah, I think snow is fucking horrible. I think it's terrible, and I think it's one of those things where if it didn't exist, you could never sell someone on it because it's dumb and winter is stupid. And people who tell you that they like winter, that it's their favorite season, are fucking liars. They're fucking liars. It's like someone who tells you that, like, their favorite show is The Adventures of the Gummy Bears from Disney Channel in the 80s. Like, no, it's not. Your favorite... You're just remembering being 6 years old and watching it and eating fucking cereal in the morning on Saturday and watching cartoons. Like, the Gummy Bears isn't your favorite show. Winter isn't great. Playing in the snow as a kid is great. But I don't get Christmas break anymore. So I just get up at 6 and clean off my car and go to work. And I wake up and it's dark and there's snow everywhere. And it's like you wake up and it's like, hey, good morning, manual labor. Get to it.
Your boss isn't going to let you be late either, so you have to wake up early.
Right. Exactly. There was a screenshot of a tweet or Tumblr post. I can never tell what things are screenshots of anymore. But there's a screenshot of words that I saw on Reddit, which basically a guy talking to his kid, and the guy saying, like, hey, kids, make sure you stay in bed. Go back to sleep because you got a 90-minute delay because the roads are too dangerous for the buses to drive on. And the kid says, well, are you still going to work? And you say, oh, yeah, work doesn't care if I die.
Too real.
I know some people don't like the heat, and I respect that. The heat can be very uncomfortable. But it's very rare that it's so hot outside that my car drives off the road and I die. It's very rare that it's so hot outside.
How hot would it have to be?
It would have
You're talking about rare. Where does that happen?
Those places where
does the tarmac melt?
Right, where it's so hot that my wheels melt. It's very rarely so hot outside that my pipes burst.
Bit of an understatement, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like, the cold is so much worse than heat. So much worse. And snow is just... If I lived in this world of luxury where I didn't have to go to work, I didn't have any responsibilities, and I had made a pact with Satan that every time I opened my pantry it was full of all of my favorite foods, so I never had to go grocery shopping or anything, then yes, waking up in the morning and looking outside and seeing all this beautiful snow everywhere would be very nice. But then the second you have to do anything, and it's, oh, wait, everyone on the road is driving like an asshole. Oh, none of the parking lots are properly plowed out. Oh, any left turn I try to take I can't make because they just pile all of the snow on the curb here, so I can't see left. So I'm just sticking my nose out halfway. Like, every part of it is awful. It's not
All the
worth...
moms have ransacked the grocery stores because they thought the apocalypse was coming, and now there's no water or milk.
I do my grocery shopping on Sunday mornings just because that's when I do my grocery shopping. And I get in there on Sunday and everyone's freaking out buying bread and milk and bottled water. And I'm in there just carrying the deli counter trying to buy some sliced cheese, and people are just freaking out. Everyone's stressed out, and the grocery clerks are all stressed out, and none of this.
No one ever gets used to it either.
No, and none of this is worth pretty snow mornings. I don't think you could sell people on it if it didn't exist. So
yeah, if it just never happened, and somebody was like, "Hey, how about white bullshit coming out of the skies?" They'd probably be like, I like not that.
It might cause your roof to collapse, though. But what if it
How
was
does frostbite sound?
What if it was pretty, but also took the power lines out?
Oh, how practical.
That does sound nice. What if it was pretty, but also made it so that getting to your car in the morning took 15 minutes? But it's pretty, though. Did I tell you that it was pretty? And that if...
Weird.
On the weekend, if you go to a mountain, you can slide down it.
That sounds fun, but do you have to get up the mountain, or does a helicopter
Oh no, you got to get up the
bring you
mountain.
there?
You got to go up the mountain. You got to drive through a lot of it to get there.
Oh.
Snow's bullshit. Anyone who tells you it's not is wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. I moved away from the snow very intentionally.
I spent time away from the snow, and when I came back, I was like, "Oh, this is horrible."
This is still happening?
God,
We didn't veto this?
just
God.
it's you got to get people away from it just for one winter. So, I'd miss snow so much on Christmas. You don't. Don't even think about it.
Yeah. The weirdest adjustment is just going to be that it's not cold. Like, it's Christmas time, and we've decorated for Christmas, but it's like 72 degrees. It was 82 on Saturday.
God, that sounds lovely.
Your body just doesn't naturally, or at least as a former New Englander, your body just doesn't adjust to Christmas coming. No matter how many signals you get, just yeah, but it's warm out. So Labor Day.
I'll tell you, during the brief period of time that I lived in Ventura, California, there was a point where I realized I haven't thought about weather in 3 weeks. It's just not something I've thought about at all because I didn't have to. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's nice to just pull up an app and just see the next 10 days. It's 65 to 75. So I'll check again next month, I guess.
Yeah. You'll get that one update oh, hey, the storm this year is coming. So you'll get a couple weeks of rain, which will suck, but then you get your other 44 weeks of sun, and it's a scam.
Just got to roll up the windows, I guess.
I don't know how my ancestors settled here. I don't know how they came from Portugal to friggin' New England.
Well, it does rain a lot in Portugal, but that's about where it ends.
Yeah. Hey, question for you.
Sure.
How do you feel about Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell? A lot like weather. I haven't thought about Will Ferrell in a long time. Yeah, I don't know. What's he doing lately? His last couple movies didn't look very good. I really like Step Brothers. That's funny. Ron Burgundy's pretty funny as well. I personally like the sequel for some reason more than the original.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, most people come at me with pitchforks about that. So they're just they just reused all the jokes. And I was like, yeah, but it was funnier. Isn't that what it's about? He was good in Saturday Night Live. I really don't have many hot takes on Will Ferrell. Did some news come out about him?
I don't know. He was in that Holmes and Watson movie that came out last year.
Oh, that looked like dog shit.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, man. I wanted that to be good because it was him and fucking John C. Reilly again. But then I remember they've done 3 other movies that I forgot about and everyone else has forgot about. I mean, it's Elf season. I didn't grow up watching Elf. I think I saw Elf for the first time 3 years ago. And I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I was surprised by Elf. That was another one that I didn't watch when it came out. My wife introduced it to me many years later. And I was like, this is... I went into this with a chip on my shoulder, and it's been completely knocked off.
Yeah, there's a serious fervor around that movie, and it's because it's a good movie, and it's a holiday movie, which is very rare to come by. Looking at you, Santa Claus 3.
Santa Claus 1 and 2, perfectly fine. Third one,
Yeah,
though,
I got no problem.
that's where you're pushing it.
Quit while you're ahead, Tim Allen, you fat bastard.
You guys leave
At
Martin
least in those
Short
movies.
alone. Don't bring him into this.
What's wrong with you?
You guys know he can't
Yeah.
say no.
I mean, he nailed that elf role though.
Oh yeah, yeah, he did.
And yeah, otherwise I don't think about him ever at all. Never, ever.
There was that.
How
There
about
was
you?
that time in like the 2000s though. How many best of SNL tapes did they put out for him? Like 5?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they were selling them on like Comedy Central right before the Girls Gone Wild videos. I remember.
Those were the. Did you ever get the Snoop Dogg one? Girls Gone Wild Doggy style.
Get it or see the ad for it? Because yes, I saw the ad for it. No, I haven't reviewed it on my YouTube channel. Check it out, Arcadia.
Yeah, I don't have any hot takes on Will Ferrell either. He seems fine.
How about the Tesla Cybertruck?
You know, I don't know about that. Because it's the kind of thing where the design almost feels like it's intended to get a reaction. And I
sure did.
I kind of like the design, but as an abstract thing, like
Yeah.
as a like, wouldn't it be cool if a car looked like this?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't buy it.
I think that's sort of what it comes down to for me. Like, I love the design, but as soon as I see one on the road, I'm gonna be like, weird.
What are you doing? This dude's from space.
Yeah. It's steel. This is strange. It's gonna stand out a lot, but I mean, like, I also think regular Teslas are homely as fuck. So, I love the technology, but I think they're just butt ugly cars.
If this ushers in a new wave of like weird ass, blocky, sharp lined car design, I'm all for it. I am all for it, but it won't.
I like it sort of more as a statement. It's like, y'all want trucks? You use them for no practical purposes? Here's a fucking truck. It's weird and edgy and fucking here you go. And I was like, yeah, all right. If I was gonna buy a truck, it'd be that.
Yeah,
But I'm not gonna buy a truck.
It's a good one. Was that your second topic to talk about?
Yeah, that was the episode 19 one that we flew by last week.
All right. Well, I'll give you my second one here. And what do you feel about perineum sunning?
Do you know what that is? I don't know what that is.
Okay, so the idea is, and I'm going to say what it is, and then I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to give you all the caveats and other things I'm wrapping it in.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the hands on legs and then the rolling.
Yeah, rolling on your back and letting your taint get all sunny up.
Yeah, taint son.
Now, I'm wondering if this is one of these things, because like I only saw everything I saw people going nuts over were all referencing like one Instagram account.
One guy, yeah.
So I don't know if this is just that Instagram account's, like, because that person's now clearly the most famous perineum sunner in the world.
Yeah, now it's a thing.
Yeah, and they're the ones who you go to learn about sunning your taint. So, like, that's
Right.
great. And if they just made this up, knowing that it would have this traction, good for them. Way to play the game.
Yeah. It's like the Tide Pod thing. It's like, oh, now we're talking about Tide Pod eating, and now everyone's doing it. Nice job, guys.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I'll tell you, when I heard about it, I thought, hey, you know what? That is a part of my body that's probably never gotten any sun.
But that's okay. What's wrong with that?
You know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it is interesting that there's a part of my body that hasn't gotten any sun as of yet.
I mean, my asshole never gets sun, and it's darker than the rest of my body. Can't explain that. can't explain that, and can you?
You know what? We'd have to go into your diet first, and you've cut me off of access to your MyFitnessPal account, so I can't do the deep dive that I would need to.
It's because you kept sending me food when you realized I just eat Slim Jims all day. Can't take the pity anymore.
I don't know. You want to sun your perineum, go nuts. I bet you it probably feels as good as getting sun on any other part of your body.
It's such a good perfect term for it too. Like sunning your perineum. Like you could talk about that at Starbucks and nobody would even bat an eye.
Yeah.
Except for the one guy that knows. He's just like, oh god.
Yeah, taint tanning didn't really go over as well.
Yeah. I mean, the alliteration's there, but the rest of it's a bit odd.
Now, this may be a bit of an indelicate question, but how do you maintain both a tanned taint and a bleached asshole? Or is the Venn diagram of people who bleach their assholes and people who tan their taints, is there not really a lot of crossover there?
I would guess that, but I still want to consider the idea. So, can you still bleach your asshole after, or can you still tan it after you bleached it? Because I assumed it just like killed all of the fucking color in your skin.
I assumed
like
that as
pigment.
well. I assumed that as well, but clearly there is a whole world of skin pigmentation augmentation that I am unaware of here. For better or for worse.
Slowly creeping towards Deus Ex or Cyberpunk life.
Oh, if I could just get some kind of augment that would just keep my taint perfectly tanned, great.
Be like a maxi pad, but like just giving off heat constantly.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sign me up. That'd be one thing that Adam Jensen wouldn't say that he never asked for.
Okay.
Hey,
showcase time.
yeah, what games do we have in our showcase?
You got Luigi's Mansion 3. Why don't you introduce us to that?
Luigi's Mansion 3 is a charming little game. If you've never played the Luigi's Mansion games, you take control of Luigi. And he's such a scaredy little boy. He keeps getting invited to these spooky places where he needs to show up, and he runs into all these spooky ghosts. And they're so spooky, and but he has to be brave with his little poltergust vacuum cleaner and suck up all those ghosts. And eventually suck up King Boo, which is just a regular Boo, but larger with a crown on. Because Nintendo is efficient with their art assets. And
so diplomatic.
Yeah, and he has a little puppy that's a ghost puppy named Polterpup, which is about as cute as Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. He's just adorable, really sweet little dog.
All right.
In Luigi's Mansion 3, it does take a bit of a turn because you're not in a mansion; it takes place in a hotel. And it's also not Luigi's, someone else owns it. It's not like he's inheriting the house from his uncle like an episode of Scooby-Doo or anything. It's not his hotel, and it's also not a mansion. But that's fine. As per usual, King Boo is up to his old nonsense. He's captured Peach and Mario and a handful of assorted toads and stuck them in paintings, like you do. And you have to go around from the basement all the way up all these floors of the hotel, finding the different boss ghosts on each floor and sucking them into your poltergust vacuum cleaner and getting the elevator buttons. The ghosts have stolen all the buttons out of the elevator. And because this building does not adhere to any fire codes, there's no stairs between the floors. So the only way to get up and down is through the elevator. There's no points of egress anywhere. It's extremely dangerous. And if they weren't trapped in a ghost dimension and there was working fire, a working phone line to the fire marshal, someone would have called it. But you get into the first floor and there's a ghost there. And
maybe it's in Serbia?
It could be. It could just be really lax. This could be that libertarian paradise everyone's talking about where there are no building codes or regulations. And this is what happens. This is what happens when you just rely on the social contract and nothing else to build buildings. They get full of ghosts with no elevator buttons, no points of egress, no fire marshal recommendations. It's a nightmare. This probably is asbestos. The elevator has no buttons on it. Each boss you suck in.
What?
Well, it has buttons.
What the fuck did you say?
The elevator has no buttons. But you go in, you find these ghosts, and you vacuum them up, and then they drop the button. He's like, oh, hey, I found the button for floor 3. You pop it in the elevator, you screw it in, or it screws itself in because of magic, and then you push it, and hey, I'm off to floor 3. And they have all the floors are differently themed. Some of there's the dining floor, there's the fancy estates, there's the garden, there's the Egyptian tomb floor, there's the pirate ship floor, like you see in a standard hotel. I don't need to explain that to you. You know.
Okay, all right.
You've been to Libertarian Paradise hotels before.
Sure. I have not, but I'm regretting it now.
Yeah, you get up there and 15 stories off the ground, there's an entire floor that's actually deep enough and wide enough to have a ship that sails in it. It happens.
What is this game?
This is just, if you follow the AAA guide and you go to the recommended stays, it's just the kind of stuff that you find. You have a bunch of different powers that you can use to help you on your way of sucking up these ghosts. And also, the other thing that's great about this game, if you are the kind of person that liked Viscera cleanup detail, or a house flipper, or any meticulous kind of OCD-ish game, the place is a mess. There's just loose paper and dust and cobwebs and things everywhere, and you can just vacuum them all up. And vacuuming them up reveals all this money. That's like, the building is insulated with dollars and coins and gold bars, essentially. And so anytime you find a slight hole in the shiplap, you just kind of put your vacuum there, and then just thousands of dollars worth of gold bars pour out. And you can vacuum up, and it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying to just meticulously clean every room. It can be frustrating when you're playing with your child next to you and they're trying to encourage you to just keep moving on and keep playing the game, and you're obsessively cleaning every room.
Dad alert.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a little, there's your kind of standard adventure puzzle solving. Each room you get into, there's usually something you have to figure out, some way to figure out to move something or access an area or flip a switch or flip the right switches in the right order to open up the door to the next room. You eventually fight the bosses, and you move on to the next area. Right. It is a thoroughly engaging and entertaining game.
So what genre would you describe it as for people who haven't played the other two?
It's an adventure platformer. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. You don't spend as much time vacuuming ghosts as you would think going into it. The ghost combat is kind of maybe a third of the game. 2/3 of it is really exploring the rooms and figuring out how to get to the next area, how to get to the next room. And a lot of times you can see the switch you need to access, and it's just a matter of figuring out, how do I get over there? Or there's a key that I need to find in here and it's just hidden somewhere. And I honestly can't think of... I know that this is an entire genre of games, and I can't for the life of me think of one right now. But there are moments of combat, but the combat is also very compartmentalized. It's not like a Resident Evil where there are just ghosts roaming around everywhere. Do
you think there's ghosts in Resident Evil?
I never really got that game. I remember I played the second one, and I was on a bus, and then I got off the bus, and there was a guy, and it was too spooky, and I turned it off. But I assume that there were ghosts as well. But it is this: you'll be searching around in a room, and then you'll trigger a ghost encounter, and like gates will drop down over the doors, and it'll be like, okay, this is the time where you fight this ghost, and it's the only thing you can do right now. And when you're done fighting this ghost, you can resume your exploration of the room. So it's very compartmentalized in that way.
How does the quote-unquote vacuum combat work?
So for basic ghosts, what you need to do is you have a kind of a flashlight that you can strobe, make a big flash, and it stuns the ghosts for a second. And then you suck them up with the vacuum. So if you get close enough, your left and right shoulder either suck or blow with the vacuum. Right is suck, left is blow. And so you suck up the ghost, and he kind of gets hooked to the front of your vacuum cleaner as he's pulling away, and you have to pull your joystick in the opposite direction that he's going. It's interesting.
A bit like fishing.
Yes. If you could imagine almost like a 3D fishing game where they could be coming from any direction. You're kind of pulling back on them, and then when you've got them down to a low enough health, you can kind of use your leverage to flip them over your head back and forth a couple of times to weaken them, and then eventually suck them up into the vacuum. And there are you have other abilities like shooting on a blast of air, blowing things, picking up items with the vacuum cleaner, like a pumpkin or a globe or other round items, and shooting them out that play into more complicated combat. But the basics of it are flash with the strobe, suck them into the vacuum, end of combat.
Interesting.
It's satisfying.
I see it was not nominated for any big awards at the Game Awards. We went over that at last episode 19. Check it out if you didn't. Does this make you feel sad, glad, or mad?
I think it's a bit of a shame because I think it is a really solid game, and I think it achieves everything it sets out to do. But it's also... you could not play it, and I don't think anyone will be referencing it in a couple of years. I don't think people are going to be talking fondly of this game.
That's fair.
I
didn't even realize that Luigi's Mansion 2 came out, to be honest.
I believe that was a DS3 or DS3, 3DS.
DS3.
3DS exclusive. I think it only came out.
3-screen DS, gotcha.
It was a rare Japan-only console, but I bought it. It was a 3DS game, and that was good too. I enjoyed it. I think that it works better on a large screen, just because I kind of like seeing the designed rooms with all of the physics objects everywhere. Feel kind of cool on the big screen like that.
Yeah, that does sound a lot better. From what you've described, it doesn't sound like it would be a game that necessarily lends itself to two screens.
No, I don't remember even what the second screen was for. It might have just been one of those games where the second screen was like your inventory and general pause screen.
Yeah, mini-map.
Yeah, nothing too exciting.
So, Guigi's the real star of this game, right? Otherwise, what's the point?
Guigi is great. My son loves Guigi, along with the ghost puppy. His two favorite parts of the game. Guigi is great. And it allows for... I love games with drop-in co-op. I think that's such a great idea, and Nintendo does that so often with their first-party games. I think it's a very smart move on their part. And so the ability to just summon a second Luigi that can also walk through gates is just such a neat idea. You walk through gates like the T-1000.
That is when I first saw the video of him going through the gates. I was like, "Oh, this is the Terminator game everyone's been asking for."
and it adds for some
finally.
It adds for some interesting puzzle solving because the game is interesting in that it varies up. It's not like a lot of other games where they introduce a new puzzle solving mechanic and then they just keep expanding on that for the entirety of that set of levels, and then they move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. It jumps back and forth between mechanics all the time. So I'll get into an area and I'll be in a room and I'll be trying to fix it. Oh shit, right, I could have been using Guigi. He could do this. This is fine. Because it's been 5 rooms since you've had to use him. So it really keeps you having to go back through your bag of tricks and okay, what haven't I tried yet in here? Rather than other games where it's like, okay, well, this is the throwing things area. So I know all the puzzles in this area are going to be based off of this new concept of throwing things. That being said, there is one mechanic, and a lot of games do this, where they introduce a new mechanic and it's basically to solve 2 puzzles in one area. Oh, here's your new ability, and you can only use it on this type of item, and it only exists in this level. So, oh, okay. I guess it's not really a new ability then, is it? So that was a bit disappointing. But otherwise, Guigi is definitely adorable and a really fun idea, and I would love for more Luigi tag teaming. Maybe instead of that Mario and Luigi series that's kind of died. That was for the portable games.
Yeah.
Do a Luigi and Guigi version.
That studio closed, I think.
Yeah. It's a shame. I liked those games.
It's a shame. Can Luigi turn into a T-Rex? Otherwise, again, what's the point?
No. But... And you know what? There will be mild spoilers here going forward. Although, I've spoiled a couple of things, but, it's not spoilers for Bloodstained, so who cares? There is a point where you get to fight a T-Rex, which is pretty rad.
Oh, they really are just putting T-Rexes in everything.
Yeah, it was pretty great. My son was very excited to see dinosaurs. This game has just given him everything he wants so far. If it had trains in it somehow, he would be ecstatic. The boss fights have actually been really cool. They're hard. There are times where I legitimately just did not you're watching that. I don't understand what they want me to do here. And then when you finally get it, like, oh, right, okay, I see. It was just me being thick. It wasn't obtuse. I was just, it was one of those things where you try something, it doesn't work, and you don't try it a second time. You just move on.
Yeah. That happened a lot in Link's Awakening, actually.
Yes.
I think I talked about that last week.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I forgot I could do that. And I left the area entirely because I'm an idiot.
So it's, the boss fights are really well done. They all feel different, and they all have their own pattern, their own strategies. It's not like some of the Mario games where it's just kind of like, well, get to the point where you can jump on him or get to the point where you can pull the thing.
Yeah, sounds like really good design.
It is.
On a scale of 9 to 10, is this the best vacuuming simulator?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a level that is when you're on the desert floor like you have in hotels. There's just one of the floors just covered in sand, and it was so satisfying to just vacuum it all up. I spent 15 minutes on that floor just vacuuming up all the sand. And you don't get anything for it. A spoiler, don't bother doing all of it thinking you're going to get... You don't get anything for vacuuming up all the sand. Other than that...
Oh, that's a joke.
Other than that really good feeling. Which maybe that's the lesson, is that the reward is the cleaning itself.
No, fuck that. If there wasn't like a moon, like if I did that in Mario Odyssey, I would fucking throw the entire Switch.
Oh, I mean, there's little things hidden in the sand that you get along the way, but there's nothing for doing all of it.
Oh, maybe you just missed a couple granules, Andy.
Don't make me do it again. Don't make me do it again.
Find out. All right. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
The only real closing thought is in playing this game, it reminds me of how much motion controls are garbage, and Nintendo should give up on them entirely.
Oh, Jesus.
They're not fun, and they're worse than regular controls. Every time. They're always worse.
People are just going to assume that we hate to move any more than we need to.
I love motion controls for games where motion controls make sense. Wii Sports was a lot of fun. I loved Wii Sports, and I played a lot of it. And other similar games where the motion control is the purpose of the game. Trying to aim up and down by tilting the Joy-Con while rotating in place and attacking these little bats that come at you. Because like a lot of, and I'm sure there are other Nintendo games like this, I can't think of any, where the most annoying enemies are the ones that are either in the sky or at foot or at a ground level, like on the floor, that you just can't properly aim at.
Yeah.
I lose most of my health to rats and bats in this fucking game. Because they're just, the controls for going up and down, they just had to be weird with it. And had to do these motion controls, and those motion controls don't really exist when you're playing in handheld mode, but if you put it in docked mode, like Pokemon Let's Go, it's like, well, you're in docked mode, therefore you want to use motion controls. No, you can't switch back to the handheld controls, but in docked mode. Sorry, fuck you. Why would you ever want to do that? So, I don't know. Motion controls are garbage. Nintendo should stop putting them in their games. They're not fun. In games like this. Like Mario Galaxy with having to flick the thing to make Mario do the spins. That's dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Hurts our old man wrists.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I always say about Skyward Sword. I love that game, but I literally couldn't play it because, like, after an hour and a half of those goddamn controls, like, my entire fucking forearm would hurt. And I'd be like, yeah, I guess I'm done. Forever.
Yeah, I replayed Skyward Sword and Galaxy 2 all on an emulator and had so much more fun.
No, that's not
because it was just like, oh, I can just press this button on my Xbox controller to do the spinning. And I can just use my mouse to point at the screen and pick up all the little things.
The dream.
Rather than having to, no, it's not getting, well, I gotta tilt, all right, hold it, shake it, and then hold it vertical to try and recount, and then tilt it again. Like, that's not games. That's not playing a game.
Yeah, that's skipping rock.
Yeah, this is not the part of it that's fun. The part of it that's fun is fighting ghosts and finding a hotel full of money. It's not trying to aim. Oh, you got little, and then, oh, you missed again. Oh, you so stupid. So stupid with your fat American hands. Nubby little fingers. So dumb.
Oh, okay.
It's a really good game, though.
All right.
Really good game.
Tell us how you really feel.
For once. For once, I'm going to be real with you.
For once. Yeah, don't hold anything back.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say about this game. It's good. It's a good game.
All right, good shit. Sounds fun.
Yeah, go check it out.
All right. Brent has a Need for Speed Heat this week. Brent's going to talk in third person now for the rest of the episode.
Fantastic. I'm going to hold you to that.
Brent likey.
God, please stop immediately.
Alright, so Need for Speed Heat is sort of the evolution of the last couple of Need for Speed, starting with the Need for Speed reboot, and then Need for Speed Payback, neither of which were well reviewed. I personally liked them. I've liked almost every Need for Speed game. And so this one feels a lot like more of the same. It plays to the strengths of Payback, where you had sort of individual items that you could upgrade depending on your rep level. Except in this game, there's no... Since that game, literally, not even joking, took place in Vegas, and the whole thing was built around microtransactions and lottery-based fucking gameplay. So
fucking
that got
sketchy.
old really fast. Yeah, I stopped playing when I realized that if I paid $5, I could be like 30 levels higher and just walking through the game. And then I was like, not for me. That was actually the only Need for Speed game I never bought, because I played the demo with EA Access, and I was like, well, I'm glad I played this first. But Need for Speed Heat does sort of what that game did with its storytelling. It goes for animated styling, tries to tell this, street world story, like a la... Actually, I shouldn't even say a la Fast and Furious, because I think Fast and Furious got popular because Need for Speed was popular. Or maybe it was vice versa. I don't remember the lineage exactly. But basically, it's very much old school Fast and Furious. Like, oh, dude just rolled into town. Like, got to make a name for himself. Like, randomly meets up with all these like super important people in the street racing scene, and the cops are like, street racers suck, but the cops are also dicks. So
it's fine.
That's the entire story. Yes, that's fine. That's the entire story. What the Need for Speed Heat hook is, and I've heard people compare this to I forgot that. There's a zombie game that uses this, but it's like a night and day mode. So basically, every time you leave your garage, you choose whether it's night or day. And if you're playing during the day, you're playing like sanctioned racing, and you're making like good money. If you play at night, you're doing it very illegally, and you're only earning rep. Much to the game's like downside, I didn't really understand why I couldn't race for higher stakes at night, and it was just rep. That got old. Just like,
because night racing is when the real racing happens, and they don't do it for money. They do it for the love of the speed.
Yeah, sure, whatever. And so what would happen was basically you'd get enough rep to level up after one race, and then you realize you didn't have enough money, so you'd go back to the garage, switch to day. You'd get enough money for the upgrade, buy the upgrade, switch to night because you couldn't buy any more upgrades because you weren't high enough level. That's the first 20 levels of the game.
Ooh.
Obviously, the pace gets a little weird. You're stuck in a really, really shitty car for a really, really long time. I actually, because I had bought the game, it came... Because I got it through, since I have EA Access, I got like the deluxe edition for the same price as the regular edition. So it came with like really good free cars. So then suddenly, once after my demo had ended and I bought the game, I suddenly had like fucking easy mode going, even though I was playing on hard, because they handed me some really, really good cars. And so then like suddenly the experience was very different, because I was playing racing in a fun car, even though it was like sort of upsetting that I had basically paid for it in some sense. Obviously you have to pay for every game at some point if you want to keep playing it, but I only got these things because I got an upgraded version of it.
Right.
But the game gets more fun after a lot of grinding, because I was literally driving like a Nissan, was it like a 350 X, like one of the really old ones, like the 90s ones. And you're doing that for like the first 5 hours of the game, and all you're thinking is, man, I would give anything to just be in like a fucking Honda Civic right now. But the story doesn't really do much for the gameplay. It's mostly a nuisance. The gameplay is still fun. It's still that classic Need for Speed sort of hyper arcadey, like drifting around corners, making sure every car you have can like do a little bit of drifting, because that's the best way to hit corners in this world. I felt like so that you can also do in this game like a lot of off-roading and stuff like that. I felt, again, just like I did in Payback, that it was the weakest part of the game. Mostly because you had to get a completely different tuned car, get in that, and then do the 2 races that were available for that, and then you had to switch back to a road car. And so it just was like, if I can't, use the same car for everything, then it's closer to a Forza game. And if it's a Forza game, that game lets me swap cars at the beginning of a race, which this game doesn't.
Oh.
You have to go back to the garage to switch cars.
Ew.
Yeah, it's truly a pain in the ass. So the fact that it tried to do all of these different gameplay types, but also gave you no quality of life improvements over either of the previous games, it sucked. It sucked. It was stupid. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fun arcade racing game, and that's one of my favorite genres. It's not even close to simulation, so if that's the type of game you want, this isn't it. If you don't want to play a simulation, which I know a lot of people don't, this might be the game for you.
Now, the story, how much does that really, like, how often are you having to interact with the story to go forward?
Not really at all, honestly. As long as you keep leveling up, you'll keep unlocking races. I mean, it sort of has the Forza thing, which begs questions like, I'm just racing to unlock more races, so you really have to like racing to want to do it that way. So, in some senses, the story can be a break from that, while in other senses, it's definitely the best way to make both rep and money. Like I said, you can't make both at the same time. That's the only way to do it, is with the story. But the story is not so common, and that's the only way you can level up. Like, you have to wait until you level up like 7 times, I think, to do the first proper story mission, which is like, sounds kind of silly.
Now, are the story missions just races wrapped in a bit of story, or are they actually like distinct from the other event types?
They're worse than that. It's like an escort mission into a race into another escort mission was one of my favorite ones.
Oh, ew! How do you do an escort mission in?
Well, not like combat escort. It's somehow even worse than that. It's just like, hey, drive with me to the checkpoint, and I'm going to talk at you, but I'm also going to drive 30 miles an hour less than your maximum speed, so you're going to have to constantly brake to match my speed.
Oh, God. That is a cardinal sin right there. Like, escort missions...
Yeah, I wasn't happy about
those
it.
kind of missions aren't fun, and anyone listening who makes games should never put them in games, because they're not fun, and they're not a clever way to work expository dialogue into your game, because it's so transparent and no one likes them.
And yeah, you just nailed it 100%. That's exactly what it is. Expository nonsense. Trying to delve into a character and like get you to like them. But you don't really care about the characters that much because it's a fucking racing game. You just want, like, some of the best games were like Silent Heroes, like some dickhead kept mouthing off to you, and then you raced him and he's like, man, you're better than me, I'm so sorry, or get you next time. Like, those are the only 2 characters you need in a fucking racing game.
Like that's all you need.
Like, stop getting in the way of my racing. I think my favorite story was, though, from the Need for Speed reboot. Most people really hate that game. That was actually, out of the 3 modern ones, that was my favorite by far.
Now, was that the
like,
one
story,
that was based on the film with Jesse Pinkman and Michael Keaton?
No, but I mean, that was the live action one, so they had a lot of live action videos.
Okay, but it had nothing to do with the film?
No. Although, I feel like that film is severely underrated. It had a really interesting tone. It just had a sort of mediocre story. Like, it was actually a really well-shot movie. but the story was stupid.
You can save that hot take for a much longer moment.
I could do a whole review on that movie. Gladly will. But, yeah. Next question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were waiting for the question. I heard a lot of hype about the setting. Was it deserved? Did it pay off? I heard a lot of people were really excited. They were imagining like, oh, it's Need for Speed, but Vice City.
Yeah, it's very nice. The thing is, like, the tone and, like, just the design itself felt a lot like the last two games. It just had, like, more trees. I think it looked fairly similar to the Need for Speed reboot, Need for Speed. Because that was basically just like a city and then like pretty outlying city and then mountainous area. Like this game is just city and then a little bit of like deserty area, a little bit of plains, a little bit of swamp, but mostly like pretty trees in the rain and some ocean views, which again the first game had. Honestly, I think that it didn't stand out enough to warrant that hype and that like sort of push, like advertising push that was like, oh, the design of this game is completely different. It felt like the last two games, just with more Miami-ness, which wasn't enough to make it feel like a completely new game.
And not enough Miami-ness to really feel like you were in that kind of, like how, because the way a lot of it was advertised, it seemed like it would have that very I don't know, Miami-ish, outrun-ish vibe to it. With a lot of...
Yeah, it definitely didn't have an outrun vibe. I mean, I'm sure some parts are pretty true to actual Miami, but like the things that people really like and really make Miami unique are basically, you know, a few stretches of road in certain areas of town, and you're usually whizzing through those areas at 150 miles an hour in the game, so you don't really get a chance to appreciate them. I'm not saying it's a bad looking game. I'm just saying like the engine, they didn't do any upgrades to the engine, so it looks like so, even to Need for Speed Rivals, it looks shockingly similar to that.
Okay. Is there a lot to do in the open world when you're not just going from one event to another?
Oh, Andy, no. I miss the days of just selecting a race in the Need for Speed games.
That was going to be my next question, is there a reason that it needs to be open world? Does that add anything to it?
I mean, you can collect sprays for, you know, decals to put on your car, which don't necessarily need to be in the open world. You know, they look nice. You can do the same stuff otherwise that you can do in Forza. There's speed zones, there's jumps, there's big jumps, there's little jumps, there's drifting, you know, nothing that made it stand out at all. And honestly, all it felt like in the open world was a 2-bit Forza Horizon, which if you're not gonna at least come toe to toe with Forza Horizon on all their open world design, then what's the point?
Okay, that's kind of what I thought was going to be the answer, and I'm sorry to hear that that is the answer.
Yeah, I mean I still enjoy the game. I'm still gonna continue playing it. I haven't beaten it. I'm pretty far into it though, but I've definitely seen all the tricks that they have in it, especially because almost all of this came from Need for Speed Payback. At least like event-wise.
So this is not the game that is going to cement Ghost Games as the new Criterion.
No. I mean, I know a lot of people that worked at Criterion moved over to Ghost Games. So like there's definitely good car game design in this game, and it's definitely a better game than Payback. But I don't think that they're coming leaps and bounds in the 2 years that they're given for these games. Just because like 2 years isn't a long time to make a video game in the first place, but also you've been using the same engine for 8 years. Like all you're doing is making some new fucking polygons and shit and dressing up the last two games in different ways.
That is disappointing.
Yeah. But if this was the first Need for Speed game you've played in a while, you'll probably still like it a bit. I've been playing every one to my detriment at this point.
Have you played the online at all?
Yeah. I was gonna note. So unlike the previous two, you don't have to play online. There's an option to play offline. And I'm so grateful for it because obviously you can't pause online. So you'd always be getting like rammed and shit, and that was annoying. And if you were in the middle of the race and somebody's talking to you or something like that, and you can't pause, it's really annoying. Like there's no boon to playing online other than the glee that other people were in your same world. But the few times I tried to actually find a group and do a race, it had the shittiest behavior ever. It will sit and spin for a minute and be like, requesting more drivers. And then if it doesn't find any drivers, it's like, okay, no drivers, no race. And then it just cancels the race. And you're like, what? I still wanted to race.
Nah.
And so you have to go back to the beginning. Like, if you were doing that Forza, you're like doing burnouts and like just burning a minute and waiting, hoping other people join. No, I did all that, and then I was like, oh my god, now I have to drive all the way back there to restart this? Are you fucking joking me? So after that, I stopped playing online permanently, because it lost all luster.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of covers all my questions.
All right.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I would say that the game is still simple enough that it can definitely be enjoyed. I probably do more tuning in Need for Speed games than I do in Forza. And it's because Forza, probably because Forza has a great downloadable tuning setup. But in this game, it's pretty simple to understand. It's not like, let's crank up the suspension by like a quarter millimeter. It's like, hey, you want to go faster in long stretches? You want to be able to handle good turns? Like, I want more good turns. I want to do the good turns. So it can definitely, like, if you're scared of Forza games, this is a fun game. It's simple. The racing's fun. It's not realistic whatsoever. That's the reason I keep coming back to these damn games, and I still like this game a lot. And I'm probably being harder on it than I would if I didn't like all of these games. But the simplicity and the fun, just stupid fun of racing, and the stupid story that will still manage to put a smile on your face will absolutely keep bringing you back.
Well, all right.
All right, shall we rank these bad boys?
So I'm thinking, and I'm going to be kind of in the middle of a bunch of your games here. So I'm going to need your insight here. But I'm thinking that this is somewhere like 12 or 13 for Luigi's Mansion, around Gears 5 and Indivisible. Because I do feel that it, while it may not be the most revolutionary game, it succeeds at everything it sets out to do. Which is more than I can say for a lot of the games in this list.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting area for it, because Gears 5 is not revolutionary, but it's just super tight, while Indivisible is one of the most unique games I've ever played. You're pretty safe to put it above Gears 5 if it's just like a genuinely fun game that you'll be thinking about for a long time. Like, I think Gears has lost a bit of its luster for me after a little bit.
I really can't think of a reason why a person I wouldn't recommend this game to is where it is. Like, I feel like if you like games that are fun, you would enjoy this game. It's just got a lot of heart, and it's a very sweet, just challenging enough game.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great.
So I'm tossing it in right at 12th place.
Yeah, and that's in between. So with Yoshi's Crafted World at 10, Shadowbringers at 11, and then Luigi's Mansion at 12, and then before Gears 5 and Indivisible. I'm going to put Need for Speed Heat right above John Wick Hex at number 21.
Keeping Ring Fit Adventures in that top 20.
Yeah, you seem to have a pretty favorable thing with Ring Fit Adventure. I think I will probably be like semi-begrudgingly going back to Need for Speed Heat for the foreseeable future. But I mean, I'll still have fun with it, but there's just like something that's just not clicking with me personally as a longtime fan of the franchise.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, so that means that Remnant and Ring Fit are just above Need for Speed Heat, and Need for Speed Heat is right before John Wick Hex and Anthem.
Oh, Anthem.
So
Anthem
still in it.
continues to survive because we keep finding games worse than it.
there's six games worse than it. Oh wait, no, there's just no numbers down here. There's 8 games worse than this. Oh, Andrew. What have we done? What have we done to ourselves? All right. Old business. I know I had something to mention. Oh, we're gonna start working on our end of the year wrap up. So we're only doing 6 or 8 more games. I don't know if the math on that is
something
correct.
like that.
Yeah, so, and then we're going to actually do our tournament brackets. We'll give more information on how that's going to work pretty soon.
Once we figure it out?
We have some... Yeah, once we figured it all out. We had it figured out at the beginning of the year, but then the show has evolved quite considerably since then. The exceptions that we've entirely ruled out playing this year are going to be Mortal Kombat, Telling Lies, Metro Exodus, and Code Vein. So if you think those are notable exemptions to the rules, it's just because we didn't get to play them. We started this podcast in March, and then we had a hiatus when I was moving.
Yeah, it was tough, and also I don't want to play a lot of those games. So it's
neither of us will enjoy Mortal Kombat at all.
There's just few games that I can see myself enjoying less than Mortal Kombat, and I'm playing one of them for next week. So it's
all right.
No, it's going to be great.
Please look forward to it.
It's going to be great. But yeah, we're gonna miss out on some good games, and maybe we'll cover them in a little. Hey, here's a quick stuff we missed last year, sometime mid-year if we catch up or something. Who knows?
Yeah, just for kicks episodes. Yeah. And other than that, thanks for listening. Make sure you're liking us on all the socials. We're noticing if you're commenting, liking, hearting, following. Yeah.
I've got a note in here for every episode to reach into the mailbag and read some listener feedback, and every episode we have none. So, if you've been wondering where's the listener feedback section, it's here. I'm prepped and ready for it every week. It doesn't exist. So, that's on you guys. It's not me. My hands. I'm doing the my hands are clean gesture right now. You can't see it. It's not good radio, but I'm doing that. Yeah, thank you. I've got fingerless gloves on because I'm cool. So I
fucking
it's like 63 degrees in my basement. It's so goddamn cold.
All right. Well, I've been Arcadia.
I've been Solid Talker.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
That's a good episode.